state of NASCAR. You had said recently it's in a better spot than it may have ever been before. Before you answer, we did one with Jimmy Johnson a year ago, and the interview ended up making news because he brought up how, top driver salaries have been halved since 2015. Same with some team revenues, and younger drivers were having trouble getting insurance.
It's a tough sport. It's tough for the owners. It's tough for the drivers, right? I had a great opportunity with my dad and all that, but also you got to look at the timing of when it happened. I got signed when I was 15 years old to drive for Joe Gibbs Racing. They bought all my Pro Cup stuff. For 3 years, they paid for my development. If that didn't happen, that's $750,000 to $1 million a year to run what I was running for 3 years. Well, that's a pretty big strain on your family at that point, right? And were we going to be able to do that? I don't know. Well, I don't know how much longer the old man was going to be all right with doing that, right? And so that doesn't happen anymore. Plus, I was getting paid to drive the car at 15 years old, right? Now, you look at the back half of the Cup field, all of them are bringing money to drive the car. It's outside of Penske, Hendrick, Gibbs, maybe a Trackhouse, Stewart Haas type team for the most part. Everyone else is paying to drive. It's a bit of a broken system, but it's like that in all forms of motorsports. It's not like that in NBA. It's not like that in the NFL. If you're talented and you're good, you're in, right? That's it. You can be talented and good and never make it in motorsports just because the cost of being there. And so when you look at the next gen car and what it's supposed to do, well, it should help that in theory.
And it has already with parity, right?
It's helped with parity and making the cars similar, and it should help with cost. That's why you see more owners wanting to get into the sport, because they see an opportunity to make money with this thing finally as an owner. So you see that piece of the sport is growing, and that's really good. The TV negotiations that are going on right now, along with the teams negotiating with NASCAR, trying to get a big piece of pie, right? Those things are happening at the moment, and that's going to change the landscape of our sport.
You have to give NASCAR a lot of credit for actively working to make changes. There's been the best year of viewership since 2018. Every sport goes through changes, right?
It has to. It
right.
has to. The old way doesn't work, right? Because people consume the sport in different ways than they used to, right? It used to be amazing just to see a car go around a racetrack and a driver would win by 2 laps. Now we got fans complaining if someone wins by 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Okay, well, the sport's changed and things have changed and the fan has changed. And so we have to adapt and move and do different things. Because here's the truth. The viewership has gone down for every sport. And unfortunately, from the beginning of my career, I've watched it go down the whole time. Until the last 2 years, I've seen it go flat, and now I'm seeing it go up, which is so cool to finally see and have that momentum.
So if somebody said, Joey, whether you want to or not, you're now running the sport, the changes you would make would be what?
I don't know if that's a fair question to ask. There's always going to be things, right? But maybe I don't see the whole picture at times, right? As a driver, you see you're one-sided at times. But I would argue it's the same for NASCAR. There's times that they're one-sided and they don't understand what the drivers are going through, right? And I think, if you look at last year, the next-gen cars introduced, the way we introduced that and the way we went through a lot of the testing and the design process, I probably would have done a lot of things differently. With all that said, and as much challenges and in my opinion, failures that happened last year, it still was one of the best years NASCAR's ever had, or maybe the best year they ever had, because everyone worked together. And I think, towards the summer months, you saw the drivers really get vocal about a lot of the issues with this car, mainly safety that came along with it, right?
Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin, most notably, yeah.
Publicly, yes. Behind the scenes, there's a lot. because we all were going through it together, and the drivers were working closer together than ever because we see our peers getting hurt, right? Like, and man, eventually it's going to be my turn, right? And you just don't want that. And you don't want to see it for your competitors. You don't want to see it for yourself or your family. And so when nothing was happening throughout all that, the frustration level was at its max with the sport. I'm going to be honest with you. I was so mad that we're speaking to a wall about my life, right? And like, we have to do something, and nothing was happening until, honestly, Kevin and Denny made it public, and now their backs up against the wall and they got to do something. And this year we have a softer car. Hopefully, all the stuff should be fixed. But your hopes is when you introduce a new car, it's doing all the right things for the sport financially, but you would assume it's going to get safer too, right? Like, you would just natural progression of technology, the car should get safer, and it did not. Hopefully with the changes that have been forced to happen now and it's going to happen, hopefully it's better, right? I mean, the numbers say it is, but until there's a wreck, you don't know.